Your line's live.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, either by phone or by live stream. We're here for the second of 5 community input sessions regarding establishing new Sioux Falls School District boundaries beginning in the 21-22 school year. As you know, we passed a $190 million bond issue in September of 2018. That seems like yesterday to me. But as a result of the Sioux Falls community providing an overwhelming show of support, we now must make sure that we're using the resources you are providing us in a way that best serves our city. For this exercise, that resource is our buildings. So it is time to begin this process again. This certainly is not the way we intended to hold community engagement sessions on this important topic. However, the day that we were supposed to hold our first in-person meeting at Memorial Middle School was the day we canceled all non-essential activities in the Sioux Falls School District. The following day, we were encouraged to close all of our schools to prevent the spread of COVID-19, the coronavirus. And as you know, we have been in a remote learning environment ever since. As we thought through the goal, we realized that the point is to hear from the public. While we would enjoy seeing you in person, your ability to be heard is still our primary goal. And this listening methodology accomplishes that goal. This topic, however, is important to us, and we know it is important to families as well. This is why we're moving ahead with these input sessions. Over the past months, we have continued to receive community feedback via our Let's Talk application. I know we've received more than 300 pieces of information prior to our first community engagement meeting. And thanks to you, we've received many more since this past Monday night. Please keep that coming. We encourage you to continue to use Let's Talk on our website to help provide your thoughts on this topic. I'll talk about that more in a little while. We're confident that we are still on track to allow the Board of Education to formally adopt new boundaries that will go into effect in the school year 21-22, and we're confident that we can get that done by the end of June as we had originally planned. The dates of our future meetings are on your screen. They are Monday, so not very long from now, at 6 p.m., Thursday, next Thursday at noon, and the following Monday, May 18th at 7 p.m. So we've got a lot to do in an abbreviated period of time. Now, a few housekeeping items before we start taking questions. In order to accommodate all questions and callers, we ask that you only call in to ask your question one time during the course of the 5 meetings. We want to give everyone a chance to be heard. You're welcome to listen to all of the meetings, but please, one call per person so we can cover the largest number of topics in our 5 meetings. Second, make your questions or comments succinct, and I know that can be tough. Monday night, you did a remarkable job with that. That was surely appreciated. In order to get to as many questions as possible, we're hoping to keep each question and answer to a total of 3 minutes. That would ensure that we get to at least 20 people in an hour, and that's about what we got to on Monday night. If someone has already asked your question or made the same point you hoped to make, please remove yourself from the call queue so we can move on to another topic. Throughout this process, we've had the Let's Talk tool that I referenced earlier. That is available on our website. Submitting questions and comments via Let's Talk equates to the same level of input and the board will receive all of those comments, just as they will hear all of the comments made tonight. If you're not aware of the Let's Talk tool, you can find it on the school district website, sf.k12.sd.us. There is a blue flag on the right side of the screen. Simply click the vertical flag, select topic, and write your question or comment. You will receive a follow-up email. And finally, please keep your comments professional. I can assure that no one intends to create a hardship for your family. Monday night, you did a great job of this. Our primary goal is to assign students to schools in a manner that maintains focus on the priorities set by our Board of Education. Priorities such as student safety, budget considerations, using natural boundaries wherever possible, and keeping contiguous neighborhoods together whenever possible. The number to call is on your screen. It is 1-800-874-4559. Participants will be asked for a code. That code is Ben Schumacher. You will answer a series of questions like your first and last name, where your children attend school, etc. The operator will put you on hold so you can listen to other callers and then let you know when it is your turn to ask your question. Finally, we're showing two options for you to look at for both our middle school and our high schools. I think it is important to realize we've considered many other options and have looked at other configurations to these options. Also, we'll continue to look for the best option available. I truly believe that what you see as our current options will be massaged throughout this process, and certainly prior to any board approval. These are your schools, and we want to hear from you on how best to put these boundaries together. Before we kick off with the questions this morning, I want to summarize a few topics from Monday night that might help with some of the questions that exist in the community. The first topic I want to address is that of grandfathering, and a question similar to this. Will students currently attending a school be able to continue and finish at their current school? My answer to that would be that the decision to grandfather students is yet to be determined. Our task force wrestled with this topic and gave information for our board to consider on this topic. We also had a student advisory group made up from students from across the district to help provide feedback on this topic. I will tell you there was not a unanimous opinion on this topic, and our Board of Education will ultimately provide the answer to that particular question. I would also tell you that it's more likely that a senior will be grandfathered than a freshman will be grandfathered, but there are no guarantees that anybody will be grandfathered. That is an issue that is yet to be determined. Open enrollment. Will it continue once we redraw the boundaries? The answer is yes. We will have open enrollment in the future, and open enrollment is predicated on the amount of room a building has. The Board of Education sets limits on building capacity, and if a building is under capacity, we allow open enrollment, just as we do today. Another question that came up is, what about the splitting of schools? Will any of our schools be split as they transition? And I say, unfortunately, yes. It would be terrific if all of our kids could stay together in a cohort, kindergarten through 12th grade, but that's not the reality of the city that we live in. We've looked to minimize the splitting of buildings as students transition from elementary school to middle school and middle school to high school. It would be our goal to keep those kids together. But what we've really tried to balance on that is to keep contiguous neighborhoods together. Just as we do today, we'll continue to have a few schools that split as they transition from elementary to middle school or middle school to high school. But please know that's not a new problem. It's an existing problem. One we'll try to make better, but one we won't be able to eliminate. What about drive times and safe paths to schools? I would tell you that safe paths to schools are crucial in our planning. The school district currently sits on a path committee where we communicate and work directly with city officials on creating and maintaining safe paths to schools. We will maintain our seat on that committee and stay steadfast in providing safe paths to schools. As we work to plan our new schools and look at new routes, please know that we currently have students driving from across town. In an extreme case, we have students who live fairly near Washington High School who drive to Roosevelt to go to school. So our current scenario isn't perfect and one that we wouldn't desire, and one that we can't perfect, but one that we can improve upon. We'll look at the safety from a whole district perspective. And at times, that whole district perspective can get lost when we begin to look at a micro picture anywhere within the district and forget that we have to consider all districts from all corners of our districts, all corners of our district and all routes of safe paths to schools. Finally, I want to remind folks the necessity of this bond issue centered in the overcrowding of many of our schools. But nowhere was that overcrowding more apparent than when looking at our West Side schools. The two largest elementary schools in our entire state are on the west side of Sioux Falls. They are Discovery Elementary and Pettigrew Elementary. Both schools hover around 1,000 students. The largest middle school in the state of South Dakota is Memorial Middle School. As you know, also a West Side school. In fact, I still find this interesting when considering Memorial. If Memorial were a high school, it would be the 6th largest high school in our state, behind Roosevelt, Lincoln, Washington, Rapid City Stevens, and Rapid City Central. No other high school in our state is as large as Memorial Middle School. And the largest high school in South Dakota is Roosevelt High School, by several hundred students. The point here is that we have a problem to resolve on behalf of our community, and that problem is complicated, but we must move some of our students to help alleviate the overcrowding, and the overcrowding across our community schools, not just in our West Side schools, but it is certainly more pronounced in our West Side. So, having said all of that, we're ready to get rolling here. I know that took a while, but now let's hear from you and let's hear your questions. So let's get started. Our operator today is Debbie. Debbie, can you bring on our first caller?
We do have someone in queue already. We do have Kelsey Mason. Your line is live.
Hello. My name is Kelsey, and I am calling in as a parent. I currently live in one of the pockets off of the west side of T.L.S. Road. I have 2 points that I kind of wanted to bring up. My first one being the Spanish Immersion and Honors programs. They are currently combined at Edison, and a lot of parents have called in with the concern that with those being split with one of the new middle school options. And I guess the one thing that I kind of wanted just to drive home with that is it's a convenience that those two things are together right now, but it's not a requirement. A lot of those parents are kind of calling in stating that they feel like these programs have to be together when ultimately, if I'm understanding correctly, they were designed to be two separate programs. And the fact that they're able to take advantage of some of those honors classes is great, but it's not a requirement of that Spanish immersion to have those programs available. My next thing that I wanted to bring up is just calling in specifically on behalf of my children. I have two that currently attend Discovery, and with middle school option A, it keeps them at Memorial, and with middle school option B, it sends us to George McGovern. And the data that I was given from one of the task force members says that that is less than 100 kids that this would affect being transferred over to McGovern in grades K through 12. When you think about that, I mean, my daughter has the option, this takes effect her 6th grade year, of going to school with 5 kids that she would know. And that's not keeping contiguous neighborhoods together. Yes, we have T.L.S. Road that separates us, but in all actuality, we do have a safe route to school because of that stoplight that was provided at 26th Street. And if that means walking a couple extra blocks to not be able to cross at 22nd or Stony Creek, that's something that I am completely fine with. And I don't want to speak on behalf of my development, but I would believe that they would be fine with too. So I guess those are just the 2 points that I wanted to bring home is we are kind of really only affecting a very small amount of kids that would be sent off to George McGovern and not keeping our neighborhoods together. And we do technically have a safe route to school with that stoplight there. And then with that Spanish immersion. So sorry, those are my 2 points that I really wanted to drive home.
Yeah, those are good points. Let me address a little bit about both of them. On the concept of Spanish immersion and the honors program, just to say we've had a lot of callers calling in on that. We just had 2 on that, and I'm not trying to dismiss your point, but I didn't feel like we were overrun with that calling. And your point is correct. Those two programs do not have to be together. But the question that I think we wrestle with is, should they continue to be together? And that's a good question. And there can be a point and a counterpoint to that. And that decision, the programming decision, will be made after the boundaries are set. But certainly those points are entangled. Secondly, one of the things that came to mind as you were speaking was the curricular offerings that we have. And I know you were speaking specifically about Spanish immersion and our honors program and that symbiotic relationship that is in those programs. We do have, other than the Spanish immersion specialty school, our programs at our middle schools and our programs at our high schools are almost identical from building to building, and they will remain that way at Ben Rifle Middle School and at Thomas Jefferson High School. The curriculum offerings that exist in our current middle schools and in our current high schools will continue to exist at Ben Rifle and Thomas Jefferson. And then finally, on the concept of moving, I think you mentioned 100 students, and I don't know if that's exactly right, and I also wouldn't refute whether or not that's right. But I would tell you, any move we make has ramifications throughout our district, and not just in a neighborhood. So we will continue to try to keep those contiguous neighborhoods together. We won't be able to do that in every instance, but that is one of our foci and one of our goals as we do move forward. Great first call.
Yes, and just like I said, we do still have that safe, walkable route to school with the improvements that were made to TLS Road just recently with installing that stoplight at 26th Street. We easily have access to get to 26th Street to be able to cross to get to Memorial. My development, my specific house is 1.1 miles away from Memorial, but it would be possibly sent to a school that's 5 miles away. I mean, when we are 1.1 miles away, it is so close. So I guess we are within a safe, walkable route to school. So I just hope that the board can remember that as well with our pockets, and we're not something that can just be easily pushed away because it's not mentioned a lot. I know last week on the calls, the schools that kept talking about being split were JFK and Oscar Howe between the two. Well, please mention that Discovery is also being split in option B because it is ultimately.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, without a doubt. And I promise you, our board is listening right now. So I won't even have to relay that message. They're hearing you as you speak.
If anyone would like to ask a question or make a comment, please hit *1 on your telephone keypad, *1, and I'll access your line.
If you're out there watching and you have a question, we're ready for you.
We do have a question from Paige Langston. Your line is live, Paige.
Hi, I'm currently a freshman at Roosevelt, so these plans will significantly affect me for my junior and senior years of high school. I want to briefly comment on priorities 1 and 2. In priority 1, it states that equitable programs need to be offered across all schools. And looking on the district's website, each high school has several classes that are unique to that school. For example, Washington has sign language classes and Lincoln has Latin classes. According to the course guide on the district's website, Roosevelt offers 11 classes that are not offered at the other schools. My classmates and I have already included those classes in our high school plans. There is not a guarantee that they will all be offered at Jefferson. And many of us don't have free periods in our schedules to travel between schools to take them. Another huge concern for me is that inequitable fine arts programs between the schools. I'm a member of Roosevelt's show choir program. As you may know, Roosevelt has an elite program with 4 show choirs. Washington has 2 show choirs, and Lincoln doesn't have any. Even if Jefferson were to offer a show choir program in the first few years of the program, it would not likely be up to the caliber that we are used to at Roosevelt. This is a concern for me and many others who plan to continue on with music well past high school. Priority 2 states that everyone will be safe traveling to and from school, and that the time of travel will be considered. Currently, I travel less than 1.5 miles to get to Roosevelt. I would have to travel more than twice that time to get to Jefferson, and I would have to cross busier intersections. I am currently less than a half a block away from the cutoff for option C and a few blocks away from option A. It is definitely safer for me, as well as all other new drivers, to go the shorter distance to Roosevelt. In option A, some students would have to travel all the way from Minnesota Avenue to Roosevelt, which is more than 6 miles away. In option C, they would have to travel from Western, which is more than 4 miles away. It seems to be a good idea to look at moving students who already have to travel far to Jefferson rather than having everyone travel longer distances. Thank you for listening to my concerns. I hope you take them into consideration.
Paige, thanks for your preparation. We really appreciate it, and your comments are really well taken. I'm guessing, Paige, that we had one of your classmates, and probably somebody you know quite well, who's on our student advisory group from Roosevelt, and brought up many of the points that you brought up, particularly regarding show choir. And we should give a shout out to Robin Starks-Holcomb, who would be quick to give you and your student colleagues credit for the tremendous accolades that program gets. But I know she's the straw that stirs that drink, and without a doubt, that is one of the flagship activities programs in our school district, and one for all of us to model after. So breaking up activities groups is not something that we would be excited about. But again, it goes back to what I talked about earlier with Roosevelt in particular, not only being the largest high school in our city, but being the largest high school in our state, and being the largest high school by several hundred students. I think with that volume of students comes some real nice opportunities. For example, you can have 4 show choirs. One of the things that isn't positive about that is we've got sample schedules going on, and we've got kids going all over I don't want to say all over. We've got kids going to places other than Roosevelt to get their education because we're over capacity at Roosevelt. So because of that, we have to do something different, and this is what we're doing. Also, when it comes to kids driving what seem to be odd amounts of miles when they live closer to one school than another, believe it or not, we have that already with our 3 comprehensive high schools. And so we don't see those necessarily because we just grow comfortable with those, and we're going to have some discomfort to get to our new reality, which is we have a 4th comprehensive high school in our community. So your points are terrific. Your points are well stated, well prepared. I really appreciate it. But also your points have been brought forward from our student advisory group, and so I'm proud of them as well. But Paige, thanks for, again, your preparation and your willingness to call in.
Thank you.
If anyone would like to ask a question or make a comment, please hit star 1 on your telephone keypad, star 1, and I'll access your line. There are no questions in the queue.
You know, maybe, Debbie, what maybe I would do then is Paige was so well prepared. She really got me thinking about, from the activities perspective, when I think of the show choirs that she talked about. And Debbie, I wish you lived in Sioux Falls so you knew how prominent that show choir piece is at Roosevelt. It's just outstanding. But I also start thinking about other activities and the limited nature that having one large high school gives us. I'll give this example because it's it goes to the other side of it, and it would be basketball, where when you have a varsity basketball team, you have 5 kids on the court representing any one of our high schools at any one time. We have 14 students who get a varsity uniform in basketball at any one time. And we cut dozens, if not hundreds, of kids across the city because of the limited opportunities that we have there. The good news is the cream rises to the top, and we have outstanding programs. The bad news is we've got other kids and other opportunities that we could be providing. A fourth high school is going to give us that. Paige is right. I don't know that they'll be the top in any activity in their first year, but there's no reason to think that they won't be in a short period of time. As long as our kids are committed to being in a quality program, and as long as we have good quality teachers and coaches leading those programs. So there's a juxtaposition there that's tough. Do we just want all of that excellence in one spot, or do we want more opportunities from throughout the city? And I'm not here to say one is better than the other, and just saying those are the positions that we consider as we look at opening up a fourth high school. I know there are many, many things to be doing on a Saturday morning. I'm equally certain that we have not answered every question there is to answer on this topic, but we have no questions in the queue. I'm not incredibly good at song and dance, so I won't try either of those. The phone number. Is it on your screen? If it's not on your screen, I'll just remind you of the phone number so you can call in. It is 1-800-874-4559. 1-800-874-4559. If you'll allow me, if you're watching at home, if you'll allow me, I'm going to ask a couple of people in the room here with me if can think of any frequently asked questions that maybe I should attempt to cover. I should have saved my opening for later. Okay, looks like we're getting some calls now.
If anyone that has just joined would like to ask a question, please hit star 1 on your telephone keypad, star 1, and I'll access your line. We do have a question in queue, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced the last name, but we have a question from Alan Sagstrad. Your line is live.
Thank you. This is Alan Sogstead. I live near Lowell Elementary. And as you were listing out the various priorities and values, I was wondering if this is also a value to provide equal... If it's also a value to provide equal opportunity across ethnic and racial and socioeconomic barriers, in order to reduce the achievement gap that exists in our society as a whole and also in our local community.
Is that your entire question, Alan?
Yes.
Yeah, without a doubt. Really well-formulated question. Without a doubt, and the boundaries certainly play a piece in that. One of the things that we do look at, and we do have the availability to do, is to look at, from a socioeconomic standpoint, from our existing population of students, figure out how any movement changes a demographic from a socioeconomic perspective across the district. So that is critical. I can also tell you that from a programming perspective and from an initiative perspective, that is a critical piece of what we consider in our school district. I'll give you this as an example. When we put together our current strategic plan that was started in 2015, one of the pieces that we talked about there was improving our graduation rate. And in improving, and we've done that. I take great pride in saying that we've done that. But in improving that graduation rate, we have improved it across every ethnicity. We've improved it across socioeconomic status, and we've improved it across every high school in our district. So I point to that as one piece of that complicated puzzle that is equity and opportunity in all of our buildings, and that's one of the things that we will absolutely continue to strive for. I would also tell you that as we go from the elementary level to the middle school level, it gets a little bit easier to create equity from a demographic standpoint because we go from 24 elementary schools to currently 5 and what will be 6 middle schools. So we can combine neighborhoods to give us a little more of an eclectic look in our middle schools. And when we go from what is now 5 and will be 6 middle schools to what is now 3 and what is 4 high schools, we can become even more eclectic as we can look at combining neighborhoods from across the district. So that is an incredibly important piece of not only the boundary puzzle, but our quest to provide equity, opportunity, and access across our district and across our programs. Terrific question.
We do have another question. Our next question is from Lon Samansky. Your line is live.
Hi, Doctor. I wasn't planning on calling, but I got my ears perked up for something you said earlier about Spanish immersion and the gifted programs at Edison and not deciding on where they'll be until after the boundaries are decided. Those are pretty predictable programs, I think, as far as the numbers. And so just wondering why you wouldn't take them into account before deciding the borders. Thank you.
You're welcome. And by way of full disclosure, Lon is a teacher for us in the district. If I said we won't consider it until after, then I misspoke. I would say we're looking at it concurrently. However, the issue of programming goes well beyond Spanish immersion and the honors program. So to hold that one piece out and consider it solely rather than looking at all program across the district is something that we wouldn't do until later on in the issue. Certainly, we have a number of students who are in the Spanish immersion program and a number of students who are migrating towards the honors program. We can look at splitting those. We can look at keeping those together. Those are issues that we will continue to look at and take information on, just like the question you just asked.
Thank you.
You bet.
If anyone that has just joined would like to ask a question, please hit star 1 on your telephone keypad, star 1, and I'll access your line. We do have a question from Sarah Spencer. Your line is live.
Yes, my name is Sarah Spencer, and I wanted to bring the voice in from the honors program since you've heard from our other specialty program. My daughter is currently in the honors program, and we have 2 children rising through the Challenge Center who we hope to also see in the honors program in middle school. And we like the idea of putting honors at Patrick Henry. It's a lot closer to the current location of the elementary gifted program. We also agree with the previous person that the two programs the honors and Spanish don't need to be co-located. And we ourselves are willing to move. Obviously, I can't speak for all honors parents, but I also wanted to echo and support what you were saying about equity. We are impressed with the work that you've done and the things that they've posted online. We're really grateful that you have looked at the socioeconomic differences across the city, and that balancing those is such an important priority. I have worked as a substitute teacher at several middle schools, and I like the teaching staff at McGovern. I like the building, and I think that parents out there who are concerned about being assigned there should not be, because, like you said at the other engagement meeting, those are good teachers. And right now there are some challenges, but as the population of McGovern changes, that has a real potential to be a real star school. So I just applaud you for those efforts which lead toward greater diversity at our middle schools and high schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Maybe one thing that I can add during a little break here is that we have recently announced who the principals will be at Ben Rifle Middle School and at Thomas Jefferson High School. At Ben Rifle Middle School, Shane Hieronymus, who is currently the principal at Edison Middle School, will be moving there. Shane is a phenomenal principal for us at the middle level. He will do a phenomenal job at Ben Rifle Middle School. There is no doubt in my mind on that. That may beg a question from you as to who will be the principal at Edison Middle School since Shane is leaving. I would tell you Shane will still be at Edison Middle School this year, and his replacement will be announced sometime during the coming year. But he will still be at Edison Middle School this year, but then he will open up Ben Rifle Middle School a year from now. Thomas Jefferson High School will have a face familiar to folks in our community. Dan Conrad, who is currently the principal at Washington High School, will become the new principal at Thomas Jefferson High School. I know Dan is already trying to figure out how does he embed the idea of culture and bringing what is solid and in place at Washington High School from a culture standpoint. How can he replicate that at Thomas Jefferson High School? So Dan will do a tremendous job at Thomas and Jefferson. And again, that leaves a void at Washington. At Washington High School, Carrie Papke will be the new high school principal, and that will begin this fall. So a little bit of musical chairs in our school community with principals, but the three names I just mentioned, Shane Hieronymus, Dan Conrad, and Carrie Papke, will be outstanding principals, and I guess I would stake my professional reputation on that. I think that all three do marvelous. No calls in the queue. We'll wait here just a few minutes to see if we get more. I would remind you one more time that the number to call, if you wish to, is 1-800-874-4559. 1-800-874-4559. I feel like I'm on an infomercial as I read that 1-800 number.
If anyone would like to ask a question, please hit star 1 on your telephone keypad, star 1, and I'll access your line. And we do have a question from Izzy Moore. Your line is live.
Hi, I just wanted to say that we have an amazing and a beautiful opportunity right now in this city to equalize education for everybody and to equalize the playing field. As a student who did go to McGovern, I appreciated my time there, and I had a fantastic relationship with teachers, and they were phenomenal. But the opportunities at McGovern are not comparable to other middle schools in our city. Right now, George McGovern Middle School and Whittier Middle School have student populations that are comprised of 78% and 71% economically disadvantaged students. And these schools are also home to at least double the number of minority students as compared to other middle schools in the district. And I think it's important to remember that there have been a lot of studies done and a lot of research done that proves when poverty is concentrated in a school, the impact on performance is compounded. And usually this level that they consider the tipping point is somewhere between 50 to 60%. And both of these schools are at 78 and 71%. When they hit these levels, their graduation rates fall. They have less opportunities and less success as adults in the future. We have this opportunity to fix this in the city. And if we spread around the wealth, we can make all sorts of changes and build many more opportunities for these disadvantaged students. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the call. And I would reiterate maybe something I mentioned earlier. And I think opportunity, access, equitable opportunities are something that are critical to us. And I would agree with you in that we can make all of our schools look a little more eclectic through this boundary process. Thanks for that call.
We do have another question or comment in queue from Eric Ward. Your line is live.
Good morning. Just have another question. I know you can't answer it necessarily on grandfathering, but I have a daughter that will be a senior at Roosevelt and a son that would be a sophomore. And just curious if there's going to be any consideration given to siblings that may have an older sibling that would be a senior grandfathered in.
Yeah, good question and an interesting twist on the grandfather conversation. Eric, let me get clarification. Will your daughter be a senior? When will your daughter be a senior?
When the new boundaries take effect.
So, and she would be a graduate of the class of 22?
Correct.
Yeah. So really good point. Let me clarify that for anybody who's watching and maybe doesn't quite understand it. So in the year we would open up Thomas Jefferson High School and Ben Rifle Middle School, Eric's daughter will be a senior at Roosevelt and also has a little brother, I think you said, Eric, who would be a sophomore at Roosevelt that same year. So if we grandfather seniors and Eric's daughter gets to remain at Roosevelt for her senior year, what about little brother? Does he also get to go to Roosevelt? I would tell you, I don't know the answer. You're right. I can't give you the specific answer to that. But as we've had conversations with the student advisory group, with the task force, and in individual conversations that I've had with Board of Education members, we've asked the question, well, what about seniors? Do they get to stay at their school? And I would tell you that in the task force and in the student advisory group, there was a general feeling that seniors should probably be able to stay. And I don't want to pressure our board. That's not my point. That's the feeling I got and the interpretation I got when talking to those groups. Then the question would be, well, what about juniors? And everybody kind of went, oh, I don't know. And what about sophomores? And it was like, oh, I'm not sure. And then the conversation went to the middle school. Do 8th graders get to be grandfathered? And maybe. 7th graders, no, they don't get to. So those were the conversations that we were having. And there wasn't any unanimous thought on either seniors or 8th graders. But the other thing that always got brought up is, if we grandfather seniors, is there a tag-along provision for siblings? What about my freshman brother or sister or my sophomore brother or sister? Do they also get to come along? So that's the question that Eric is asking. I wish I could answer it for you, Eric, and I don't know the specific answer to that question, but I do know that is one that the board will wrestle with, and that will likely be answered in June. I wish it could be answered for you today.
No problem. Just wanted to make sure it was under consideration.
Yeah, you bet it is, and that's a highly charged and an emotional piece of that conversation. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have any callers in the queue right now, so one of the things I'll talk about is our construction. I wish I had the flyover. We have on our website. We have drone footage on our website of the progress that you can see. It's awesome to see, or at least I know I'm biased. It's awesome for me to see, and you can actually see from an overhead view what the new sites look like. I would tell you one of the things that I'm happiest about in terms of the construction is, number one, both Ben Rifle Middle School and Thomas Jefferson High School are on budget, and also both of them are on time. So there is every reason to believe that we will be able to be in both of those schools in the summer prior to the beginning of the 21-22 school year. So we're really excited about that. The coronavirus that's impacted all of us and all of the issues surrounding what we do on a day-to-day basis has had very little impact to date on the construction process. I still worry about the logistics in terms of being able to acquire materials, et cetera. But from a workforce perspective, all of our contractors and subcontractors have been able to continue their work, and they have stayed on time. So two key phrases to me are we are on time and we are on budget. Things are going well with the construction of both Ben Rifle Middle School and Thomas Jefferson High School. We are coming up on 50 minutes of our hour. We have no calls in the queue. I will remain here for a couple of minutes without calls. If we don't get any more calls, we'll wrap it up. But we'll wait a couple of minutes. I'll give you that number one more time. At the risk of sounding like I'm selling something, the number to call is 1-800-874-4559. Yes, that's right. For the next couple minutes, you can call 1-800-874-4559. That's as funny as I get, and I know that's a low bar. If you have a question that you're wondering about, maybe I should ask it, but I don't want to ask it yet, I'll remind you that you'll have 3 more opportunities. The next opportunity is Monday night. That's this Monday, May 11th, at 6 p.m. We will have this same format. Next Thursday night, so in just 5 days, we will have the next Thursday. I hope I didn't say Thursday night. Next Thursday, we will have this same format that will begin at noon. And then the final of our 5 community engagement meetings will be on Monday night, May 18th at 7 p.m. We've juggled those days and those times. I hope we're not confusing people, because truly our goal was to provide opportunities for people who maybe aren't available Monday through Friday to have a Saturday opportunity. Maybe can't get to us in the evening because of work, a noon opportunity, and again, a Thursday and a Saturday morning. So our goal is to make this accessible to everybody. Still no calls. I'm going to wait 1 more minute. And if we don't hear anything in that minute, we'll close this up for this morning. Okay, I'll remind you that if you have information that you don't want to share, you don't want to call in, a reminder that you have the opportunity to do that through an application we have on our website called Let's Talk. Our website is SF, as in Sioux Falls, sf.k12.sd.us. If you do not want to call in and be heard, you can write in and be heard, be listened to. All of that information will go to our Board of Education, so please know that that information is every bit as viable as calling in and talking to us. With that, we have no callers in the queue. I will say thank you very much for being with us here on Saturday morning. We'll be with you again Monday night. Have a great weekend.
Disconnect your lines.